Toma Sports Talk worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Let's talk a couple of legends in the world of boxing. One in the cruiserweight slash heavyweight division. One in the lightweight slash junior welterweight slash welterweight division. Right? These are legends in the sport, and that will be Oleksandr Usyk and Terence Bud Crawford. Now, most of the time I talk about these guys, y'all know I call them legends, and because, hey, you're undisputed in an era where it's hard to become undisputed. You need 4 belts, and everybody in boxing does everything to not see undisputed, including the fans. As soon as you get close to undisputed, they freak out, right? Every single time. Examples, so you can kind of know where I'm going with that, like Lomachenko fighting Teofimo Lopez. The winner of that fight being called undisputed, even though we know that it was a franchise belt there, right? And that Devin Haney had the WBC belt. We called Teofimo Lopez undisputed. We called George Kambosos undisputed. I don't know why the hell I'm saying we, but no, some people did that, right? That's not undisputed. But the real undisputed fight, they did everything in their power not to see it, right? We tried to get undisputed in the middleweight division, which is a glamour division. Canelo had 3 belts. Demetrius Andrade had the other, begging him to fight for $40 million, the biggest payday in Canelo's career. No one in the industry, no one mentioned that fight, right? But between Andrade and Canelo for the middleweight undisputed. He didn't have to go to super middleweight and do the super middleweight what nobody really cared about. He didn't have to do that. There it was right there. But what did we do? Everything possible to not see that damn fight, right? It's always something. When you get close to undisputed, it's some shenanigans going on. Let's just hope when it comes to Terence Crawford and Spence that it works out like that. Or if Usyk were to beat Joshua, that it works out with him and Tyson Fury. Undisputed makes people act really, really weird. So speaking of undisputed, these 2 legends right here are on a race to just be ridiculous legends. And when you start talking, you're getting up in those GOAT conversations if things like this were to materialize. Now I'm getting ahead of myself, I know that, but hey, I've been telling you guys for the longest that Terence Crawford could be already going for his 3rd division undisputed. But he's not, because he didn't just get it in lightweight before he left. But he was the baddest one there too. But he left and went up to 140, became undisputed. At 147, he's trying to become undisputed. And here's something that's ridiculous. This is 3rd weight division. Do you know that Terence Crawford is a light favorite against Errol damn Spence? Errol Spence? The one who's, done all the heavy lifting? The one who's the baddest one at the welterweight division? Where we just give him, because he's awesome. He's got 3 belts. He's awesome. But Terence Crawford, who's #1 pound for pound, which is also a moniker, but also is a favorite against that guy. That's just showing you what the hell is up. Ain't nobody else no favorite against Errol Spence, are they? Give me any welterweight that's a favorite against Errol Spence. Even the ones that are about to go up to 154 right now. They're not. They're not. The only one that's a favorite against Errol Spence is Terence Crawford. The only one that Manny Pacquiao was never going to fight, and no one in the boxing world wanted him to, is Terence Crawford. So when somebody says Terence Crawford might be Errol Spence, some people get pissed off. Right? You just see it. Some of my favorite uploaders just trip. They don't. Every time somebody says Terence Crawford's going to win because he's going to use his legs, then he's like, well, does Terence Crawford ever use his legs? Right? Like Terence Crawford sits in the pocket and fights. Not necessarily. Using your legs doesn't mean running. It means getting to where you got to get, giving somebody angles, getting in, getting out. That's legs. Terence Crawford might use his legs against Errol Spence. What's so hard about that? Somebody says Terence Crawford might stop Errol Spence. How can that be? Right? All these questions. Well, every time somebody says Terence Crawford will be Errol Spence, this dude comes up with he doesn't like it. But he probably won't say it. He likes Errol Spence, obviously. Too bad. Somebody thinks Terence Crawford could beat Errol Spence, like they think Terence Crawford could beat anyone. That's #1 pound for pound, and means that whoever's around your weight, they think he can beat him. That's why they call him #1 pound for pound. No one does that to Spence. Probably because Spence has been in one weight class. That's why Spence has to win this fight convincingly and keep it on moving if he wants to be talked about like Terence Crawford. Because Terence Crawford has fought guys that are bigger than him before. And he seemed to have handle his business. If it's Kell Brook, if it's Jeff Horn, if it's Jose Benavidez, those guys are huge guys. Sean Porter, most of these guys are middleweights. That's why Terence Crawford does this, do what he wants to do, right? So these guys, him and Oleksandr Usyk, could be in a race to become not only 2-division undisputed, but 3-division undisputed. And here's how. Terence Crawford, if he beats Errol Spence, and people, these are big ifs. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Let's just be real. Anybody can imagine how Errol Spence losing? Let's make sure this is clear, just because I'm talking Terence Crawford here. Don't get it twisted. Like, how does Errol Spence? How is somebody supposed to beat Errol Spence? This is a whole lot of wheel coming at you, and you ain't gonna stop him from coming at you. You better be bringing something, right, to beat Errol Spence at the welterweight division. There's good luck with that, right? But if Terence Crawford were to beat Errol Spence, he's going up to 154, and who is he challenging? Anybody at 154? Just anybody like a Canelo would do? No, the very best guy with all the belts is who he wants, and he has a chance against him. The reason why all these guys Terence Crawford been fighting are 154 pounders. They are, right? That's the point. So he knows that, well, Jermell Charlo is not that much bigger than the dudes I've been fighting already, and he's already calling them out. That would give him 3 divisions. Now, the other legend, Oleksandr Usyk, and people who would probably say, well, he's not a legend. Well, if you don't know, then you're not really paying attention to boxing. You're really paying attention to what an American boxing is telling you. The opponents from Oleksandr Usyk have been awesome. If it's a Gassiev, if it's a Moritz Bradis, if it's a Huck, if it's a Golovkin, if it's a Tony Bellew, whatever you want to do. He's had some good, Michael Hunter, for example. All those guys are awesome fighters, and he's beat them all away, right? So he's undisputed at cruiserweight and trying to get undisputed at heavyweight. But be it as it may, some food are made up of bridgerweight in the heavyweight division, which means you can go all the way up to 224. That's the perfect weight division for an Oleksandr Usyk and a Deontay Wilder. And some people are asking Deontay Wilder to fight Oscar Rivas for the bridgerweight title. And why wouldn't Wilder maybe do that if he came back at all? This is a speculation. But if Wilder came back and beat Rivas, Wilder and Usyk can fight. And what do you have there? A 2 undisputed fight. Usyk beats Wilder, boom, he's a 3-division undisputed guy, just like Terence Crawford. So at the end of the day, that's a lot of speculation, right? But it's possible with these guys, right? Because whether we want to believe it or not, these guys are surrounded by others that don't do anything remotely like them, right? Like they're far and away, the better guys in terms of we're not trying to just fight at home, or we're not trying to not fight the best. When you hear Terence Crawford, it's always against the best. He's always trying to fight the best, and then the best got some stuff, that they got to do. Like Spence had to, get cleaned up this side of the street, like it was ever a side of the street. There isn't no such thing, okay? But we keep doing that when we need it. Oh, but they got 2 different promoters. But when we don't need it, hey, promoters don't mean nothing. They never do. A fighter can say, I don't give a damn, make the fight. That's what can happen. Just like Devin Haney just did, didn't he? Didn't Devin Haney just forget the side of the streets? I got to get Kambosos because I want to be undisputed. There you have it. It's right there. That's the most recent one. But there's others. Bottom line is, both of these guys are legends already, and they're going for not only 2-division, but possibly a 3-division undisputed. And guys, that would be ridiculously awesome. So let's see who gets there first. Doma Sports Talk, worldwide. And I'm about to here, y'all.